Last night, on the eve of winter, a tempest was raging furiously. I was called out to Sternwood Manor to investigate a murder. 6 guests had joined the wealthy, educated lawyer, Mr. Body, for an evening dinner party at 7 p.m. Professor Plum, Miss White, Mr. Green, Colonel Mustard, Miss Scarlet, and Mrs. Peacock. At exactly 9:15 p.m, Mr. Body was found in the library, dead. A bloody candlestick found next to the corpse, a sizable bruise on the side of his forehead, suggesting he was beaten to death. No one else was in the house at the time. The victim had given all his usual staff the night off. There was nothing suggesting forced entry. The murderer must have been one of the 6 guests. Welcome. Please come in and take a seat. State your name and occupation.
Patrick James Plum. I'm a professor at Oxford.
Hello, Detective. Samantha Scarlett.
Gilbert Green, publisher of the largest newspaper in Great Britain.
Is this gonna take long? Penelope Peacock. My name is Winifred White.
Cornelius Bustard, at your service, old chap.
How did you know Mr. Body?
I fought alongside Robert while we were in the war.
It says here that your husband died recently.
How do I know Mr. Body? Our families have been friends for a long time. Robert was having some allegations with fraud and he contacted me for some help.
You were having an affair with Mr. Body.
As far as I'm aware, that isn't a crime.
Sources have informed me that you're entitled to inherit a large sum of your family's wealth.
How is this relevant?
Tell me what happened last night.
After we all had dinner, Mr. Body invited us all into the dining room for drinks.
I was talking to that delightful woman, Miss Scarlet, when Colonel Mustard suggested that the men play a round of billiards.
And what time was this?
Well, it was around 8:10.
While the men had left, I went to the kitchen to ask the chef about a recipe.
Ha! She says that's why she left. Stealing the silverware, most likely.
Are you suggesting that Miss White is not telling the truth?
I think you should ask her about her past.
Mrs. Peacock claims that your husband is currently in prison.
I was caught stealing some jewelry. My husband took the blame. But I didn't kill Mr. Body!
If she lied about her past, then who knows what else she isn't telling you.
When was the last time Mr. Body was seen?
Professor Plum asked Mr. Body to retrieve an encyclopedia from his library, so he must have left about 8:20.
I'm not surprised Professor Plum returned to the lounge so soon. As intelligent as he is, he doesn't seem to have the slightest stroke of luck.
Is it true that you lost a large sum of money due to an investment Mr. Body recommended to you?
We were going into business together. I spent my entire life savings on that company and went bankrupt.
And in a moment of fury, you followed Mr. Body into the library and beat him to death with a candlestick.
What a preposterous assumption.
Let's move on then.
Yes, let's.
After the professor left, the colonel exited on a flimsy pretense of wanting to show me his sword.
No, Colonel Mustard did not earn that Medal of Honor.
I don't think that colonel's ever been to war.
Mr. Green was left alone for about 10 minutes. Are you aware of the location of the billiards room? It's right across from the library.
What did you do whilst you were alone in the billiards room?
Well, I admired Robert's wine collection.
I'm not guilty of anything, except claiming what was rightfully mine.
I'm not surprised the Colonel has been living under a false name. Perhaps Mr. Body found out, so he was silent.
You've been pointing a lot of fingers tonight, Mrs. Peacock. Is there something you were trying to hide?
No.
Tell me where you were at 9 p.m.
I went to retrieve my purse from the dining room. I must have left it there after the meal.
Oh really? The dining room, she says.
Is there something you know, Mr. Green?
Well, I know that after Mrs. Peacock's husband's death, she came into a suspicious amount of money.
How would you know that?
It's the newspaper business. We know everything.
You think she killed her husband?
I didn't say anything about murder.
Where were you going when you ran into Mrs. Peacock?
I followed Mr. Body into the library to have a moment alone with him.
Before the dinner had started, I was walking past the library and I heard people talking. I leaned in and I saw Mr. Body and Miss Scarlet in a heated argument.
What were they talking about?
Mr. Body wanted to break off the affair and Miss Scarlet was very angry.
Did you kill Mr. Body, Miss Scarlet?
If only I did, Detective. Someone else got to him first. I stashed the revolver away in the bookcase. No one else saw me with it.
We have reason to believe that Mr. Body possessed a letter containing a dark secret that could have potentially destroyed your family.
How did you know about that letter?
Yes, I saw it while I was with Robert once.
Do you know what it said?
Not exactly, but you know who would.
Professor Plum, of course. You and Mr. Body were going into business together. You had access to his library.
Yes, I read the letter. Is that what you want to hear?
What did it say?
Mr. Green is an illegitimate child who would inherit nothing if his family were to discover that letter.
I'm a wealthy man, Detective. It means a great deal to me.
Tell me what happened last night.
Mr. Body has been holding that letter against me for years, using it to blackmail me. When I was invited to the party, I saw that as an opportunity to preserve my status. Once I was left alone in the billiards room, I walked across to the library where I confronted Robert. I demanded that he return the letter to me, but he refused to tell me the whereabouts. My whole future depended on that letter.
Did you kill Mr. Body? Mr. Gilbert Green, you are being arrested for the murder of Robert Body. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law.
Is this really necessary? That letter would have destroyed my family.
Save it for the judge, Green.